Welcome back to Abrar Knowledge channel. Today we are going to unfold this particular book. Very great book, and the book name is The Power of Six Sigma, and it is written by, you can find it here, Subir Chowdhury, and it's a Pearson model. Pearson Education is a publication, and it's a wonderful book. Basically illustrate about common example or live example with the hotel example and various service industry, and how the Six Sigma can be implemented, and what the stage they were and how they implemented on that. And then the author wanted to give acknowledgement to there is a Tagochi and all that. He has also been worked with them, and he has created in the memory of Edward Diamond, right? One of the quality group. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the glance from the every chapter, and it has basically a chapter. There are various chapters, like 7 chapters. Moving day, lunch is served, swallowing Six Sigma, the crucial differences, and people power, what does what, and putting people power into practice, and process power, the 5 steps for Six Sigma that has been mentioned in 85. I'm trying to spend more time there. Putting process power into practice, and now first what we saw was putting people power into practice, and then the following subject is putting process power into practice, and we deliver. And then basically the conversation get started with the very simple one, and one day, moving day, he called it as a moving day. One day he wanted to have a lunch, and his friend is insisted to take it to the pizza and all that. So he was kind of full that day, and he didn't want to have that, but since his friend insisted to go, and then he just went, and he took part with his friend and all that. Then he was observing that how the process of pizza process is happening and all that. And then he went and had a discussion with the people who cook, and people, the hotel managers, and so on and so forth. And then how they serve basically talks about that particular food and all that. And then he says that we share a lot of ideas and common sense ideas, in a simple one, how this can be done this way and all that, this suggestions and all that, most of which is inside probably would have worked, but half of the time the answer was simply fire, cut the fat and get rid of the dead wood and all that. That's what it talks about it. And then now the real dialogue gets started. Chapter number 2, lunch is served. Now he talks about that the same thing, American pizza store, right? The example of that hotel he picked up, American pizza store. And then he says that he went, and he also wanted to have some veg pizzas and all that. And then he says that how the person who is serving is trying to interact with him, and how is the food, and what you like and all that, how is the family and all that, right? So it says that it does not matter how rare and common the disease, if you have got it, that's all the matter. So that's I don't want to have so much junk foods and all that, and then he says that whether it's a minor or trivial, if you get the disease, is all that matters. He talks about it. And then now the first philosophy talks about it. Remember, actually, like how many pizzas get overcooked, how many pizzas get not spread with the toppings and all that. They say that roughly the 1 in 10 pizza goes like that and all that. And then say the 1 in 10 is a big thing, like 10% of the rejection, right? And it says that the Six Sigma, and it's very beautiful. Six Sigma, the number 6, yeah. The Sigma, it comes from the Greek word, but Six Sigma means something more in business, something more in industry. It represents the statistical measure and management philosophy. That's what it talks about it. And then swallowing Six Sigma. And in this one, it basically talked about wherever anyone hears Six Sigma, people get to know, no, it's all about perfection. It is very complicated. We have to spend a lot of tasks. We have to remember. We have to spend a lot of resources, and we have to dedicate a lot of time and all that, right? No one believes, and so on and so forth. So that's what it talks about it. And then he says that Six Sigma works best when everyone is involved, from the CEO at the top of the organization to the guy in the mail room, right? And the real power of Six Sigma is simple, but it combines the people power and process power. And then he also talks about that 3P. When you synchronize that people, profit, and process, this is all about Six Sigma. When you do that, all your rejections and your cycle time will improve, and your the accuracy will improve. You can have a different variety of foods and all that. That's what it talks about. Sigma is like a measurement used to determine how good or bad the performance of a process is. In other words, how many mistakes a company makes and doing whatever it does, right? And then further it talks about it. And then so then in page number 34 it says that if you want to improve something, you have to know from where you stand and from where you wanted to go, right? Else it is not going to happen. Number brings clarity. He says that number brings clarity. In order to get that, you have to have a baseline data. That's what it talks about it. And then it again says that Six Sigma companies learn the quality save money. Right? The cost of poor quality is an example, because there are fewer throwouts and fewer warranty payouts, fewer refunds. Doing all that in turns increases the profit and all that, right? And then it talks about the crucial differences. We are moving to the next chapter, the crucial differences. How many different management, and every management has a different philosophy, and some management, they don't mind of having little to no rejection. Some are very particular, and sometimes they see only the balance sheet. All that it talks about it. We ask the customer what problem we need to solve. If we correctly identify and solve those problems, we'll save the money, and the customer will be happier. That's what it talks about. So that means finding out what the customer demands, what the customer wants, is something very, very important. And then Six Sigma picks one problem to solve at a time to a project. That is very nice. And then moving to the next one, and I will make it fast. People power, what does what? Who does what? And then it talks about various dialogue between those operators. The executive leadership has to be driving force behind adopting Six Sigma philosophy, inspiring an organization from day one. So the deployment champion provides the leadership and commitment to work and all that. It basically talks about that particular one, and then it talks about the responsibility of green belt, black belt, and the black belt are the one who work dedicatedly and all that. It talks about it. Never tell people how to do things. Tell them what you want done. They will surprise you with their ingenuity in getting there, actually. Okay, and then now we are talking about putting people power into practice. And then it talks about the deployment and all that. So again, and again, that operator, she told that we are going to have that $15,000 about the cost of the poor quality and all that. Okay, then 5 steps for Six Sigma. Process power. DMAC approach, it basically talks about it. Define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And then pick the problem that is giving the most trouble. Right? We call them as Pareto. We find out the most trouble, the X factor, independent factor. The one that costing the company the most, the one that making the customer unhappy about it. These two. Basically, it has a various way. You can go through via the VOC, via VOB, via cost of poor quality. Various way you can pick that issues and solve it. That's what you can fix it. That's what it talks about it. And then furthermore, sit down with the data and you analyze and determine what's possible, what's reasonable goal for this and all that. And basically it also talks about too much data, too much analysis, paralysis and all that. you need to know that why we are going to do and how we are going to do and all that. This is something which I talked about it. DMAC approach: define, measure, analyze, improve, control, and how we can. But people ignore that, ignore the define phase, and they think that we can directly measure and do that. No, you also need to define, because you need to identify the right project, and then putting process power into practice again. And it also talks about how we can make the process robust and all that. When we started to look into it, we focus not just on the outcome, the process that produce it. Sometimes even the benefits what is going to have is very, very minor, but you have to focus more on the process discipline and all that. When I showed them our number, our observation, and our idea, the huge potential savings, earnings underlying, the bosses gave the go ahead and implement that Six Sigma. Yeah. And then we deliver, the last and final chapter, we deliver. And then it says that once we had then finished the project, I figure out that it is all about creating the culture, creating the mindset, and just awareness and all that. You have a lot of more credibility with the people when you can back up when you say with the numbers and all that, right? And then further it says that some strategies, same results, more efficient work, fewer refunds, happier customer, that we talked about. We are heroes, it talks about it. And then the message is no rush, take your time, and you are important here. That means people at the end of the day, they also talks about it. Also talks about the downsize. People think that it's all about downsizing and all that. Six Sigma takes that employee job. No, it is to improve the process and so on, right? And it